Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan is coming right around the corner, and it is extremely important that you and I understand the rules and regulations of fasting itself so that we may please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that we may receive His blessings, His rewards, and avoid and abstain those things that displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this presentation, inshallah, is going to go over the fiqh of fasting itself and how we can learn all of the rules and regulations so that we may have a proper fast, inshallah ta'ala. We start with talking about Ramadan itself. The word Ramadan actually means heat. Now, why does Ramadan mean heat itself? Some scholars give two reasons for this. The first is that Ramadan first became fard in the summer months. So the Sahaba, when they first had to fast, it was in the summer months. And as you know, every single Ramadan, it shifts throughout the seasons. If you live up to about 30 years of age, you would have witnessed Ramadan going through all of the seasons. Another reason why Ramadan is named after heat is because heat has a relationship with sin. Sin is described as hot, not only because it leads to something very hot, the fire of Jahannam, but also because heat has a connotation of being uncontrollable. It has a connotation of wrath. It has all of these aspects to it. When you and I sin, the body also tends to become hot. We are advised to do wudu when angry because the body becomes hot. And when a person does tawbah and they cry, those tears tend to be very hot. So the month of Ramadan is synonymous to forgiveness, and the tears of tawbah are hot. So within this blessed month, the heat is exterminated, and then after the month of Ramadan, a person feels coolness, which is also ascribed to ibadah, tranquility is all cool. When did Ramadan become fard? According to many mufassirs, including Imam al-Tabari, the 10th of Sha'ban, it became fard in the second year of Hijrah, which is the 15th year of Nubuwah. So we see Ramadan coming in much later in the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the 15th year of Nubuwah. Before that, of course, there were optional fasts, but now it became compulsory on everyone. What is the timing of fasting? Firstly, when is the month of Ramadan? Ramadan is the 9th month in the Islamic calendar. It comes after the month of Sha'ban, and it precedes the month of Shawwal, then Dhul Qa'dah, then Dhul Hijjah, which is the 12th month, and then the year starts again with Muharram. So it's the 9th month. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Quran, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. Any one of you who witnessed this month of Ramadan should fast. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, صُومُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ وَأَفْطِرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ. Fast when you see the crescent moon, and stop fasting when you see the crescent moon. So in Sha'ban, when you see the crescent moon again, that is a signal that Ramadan is starting. And at the end of Ramadan, when you see the crescent moon again, that is a signal that Shawwal starts. And Eid al-Fitr is the first of Shawwal. So you have to fast throughout Ramadan, and the signal is sighting the moon. One must fast daily in Ramadan from sunrise to sunset. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا, eat and drink, حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. Eat and drink until the white thread becomes clear from the black thread of Fajr. ثُمَّ أَتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. Then complete the fast until nighttime. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here is, when the sun is rising, you have the horizon. When the sun is getting close to the horizon, it emits obviously light. That light from the sun being below the horizon is visible on top, above the horizon. When that first light is visible, that is the white thread separating the dark thread of night. That is essentially the time of Fajr. So when the time of Fajr sets in, when that white thread becomes apparent, you and I have to begin the fast, i.e., when it is Fajr time, we have to stop eating and drinking. It begins when Fajr time sets in, not necessarily when the adhan is called. There's a difference. Adhan is called whenever the mu'adhin calls the adhan within the time frame. Sometimes the mu'adhin will begin the adhan exactly when it is time. Sometimes the mu'adhin will delay. So don't necessarily wait on the mu'adhin. Find the exact timing, which in today's time will be in certain charts, and then you stop at that time. And obviously, the time to open the fast ends, that time begins or the fast ends when true sunset occurs, not necessarily when the adhan is called. Again, sometimes the mu'adhin will call exactly at Maghrib time, sometimes they'll wait a minute or two. So find out that time to know when the fast is to be opened. Now, Maghrib is, if you have the horizon here, the entire sun dips below the horizon. If the sun is still like in the middle or starting to set, that is not Maghrib. So once the sun has dipped entirely below the horizon, that is Maghrib. What is Yawm al-Shak, or the day of doubt? It is the 30th of Sha'ban. Sha'ban is the month which precedes Ramadan. A lunar month may have either 29 or 30 days. It cannot have 28 days or 31 days, a lunar month. And that is basically due to the moon and how it waxes and wanes. 29 or 30 days. So on the 30th day of Sha'ban, another point that I want to make is that in Islam, we count the day or the number from nighttime. So if today is the 25th of Sha'ban, tonight after Salatul Maghrib is the 26th of Sha'ban. Then the 26th day of Sha'ban will start. After that day, when it's nighttime, the 27th of Sha'ban will start, then the 27th day after. So we count not from 12 a.m., but from Maghrib time is the new day. So the 30th day of Sha'ban, if no one sees the moon after the 29th day, so the 29th day is done, after Maghrib, this is the 30th of Sha'ban. And remember, there's no 31 days. Is it going to be a 29-day month or a 30-day month? So the way you determine that is on the 29th day, when it's done, you have the 30th night, you look for the moon on that 30th night. If you don't see the moon, then you don't fast the next day because that is the 30th day. If you do see the moon, then the next day, that moon actually signals that it is not the 30th night, it's actually the 1st of Ramadan. Then the next day you fast. So it is makruh to fast on the next day. Why is it makruh to fast on the next day if there's an overcast? So imagine here with me. The 29th night of Sha'ban is done, 29th day of Sha'ban is done. Now you got the possibly the 30th night of Sha'ban or the first night of Ramadan. We don't know. If you see the crescent moon, it is the first night of Ramadan and Sha'ban was only 29 days. If you do not see the moon, then that means Sha'ban is actually 30 days and that is the 30th night of Sha'ban. However, if there's an overcast, there are clouds, there's no way for you to see the moon. And this is traditionally talking. I'm not going into all of the different calculations and different methods. But traditionally speaking, this is could be the 30th night of Sha'ban or the first night of Ramadan. There's an overcast, so you can't see the moon. So what do? You don't treat the next day as Ramadan. You treat it as Sha'ban, and then the next night after that is going to definitely be the month of Ramadan. So the scholars say, if you have doubt, there's an overcast, so you don't know, the next day you should not be fasting. Now, why shouldn't you be fasting in the next day? Because your intention is not going to be correct. Are you fasting because it's Sha'ban or are you fasting because it's Ramadan? So you might be thinking, okay, let me just fast. If it's Sha'ban, it's a nafal, and if it's Ramadan, then it's fard. So you don't know if you're doing nafal or fard. That is not a correct intention. And due to that, you should abstain from fasting on this day. Some also say that it's makruh to fast for the last 2 days of Sha'ban right before Ramadan, and that is because a person may lose energy. They may feel that they're drained before Ramadan, so the last few days of Sha'ban gain energy for the blessed month of Ramadan. What is Ṣawm? Ṣawm is the Arabic word for fasting. It literally means to abstain from something. And technically speaking, Ṣawm is to abstain from entering anything into the stomach or that which has the same ruling of the stomach, as well as to abstain from fulfilling the desires of the private organs in the daytime with an intention to please Allah. So there's a lot of components here. Number one, you have to abstain from entering anything into the stomach or what has the same ruling of the stomach. This includes food, water, putting anything into the stomach. What is something that has the same ruling as the stomach? Something that will enter the brain cavity, so nose drops and things like that. Or something that will enter the opposite side of the intestines via the anus. And for a woman, some scholars, they stated the vagina. So entering something in there, and we'll talk about these. It is also to abstain from fulfilling the desires of the private organs, meaning abstaining from sexual intercourse. And this must be in the daytime. In the nighttime in the month of Ramadan, all of these are halal. And it has to be with an intention. If we don't have an intention, then the fast has not counted. You must have an intention. So the three pillars of fasting: no eating, no drinking, no sexual intercourse. It must be with an intention and in the daytime. What are some conditions of fasting? So there are 3 conditions. If a person meets these 3 conditions, they must fast. So we're going to talk about those first. Then another set of conditions. If a person is eligible for the first 3, they meet those 3, they must fast. Then there's 3 more conditions. If they don't meet these, then they are excused and they have to give a substitute. So let's take a look at this. Who has to fast? A person who is a Muslim. They must be mature, meaning reached puberty, and they must be sane. If a person is not Muslim, they don't have to fast. They have to become Muslim. Number 2, if a person is a child, technically they don't have to fast. We should still train our children before and encourage them to fast so that it becomes easy for them. And number 3, if a person's insane, they don't know what's happening, they don't understand. They don't have to even say the shahada, they don't have to pray, they can't. They're forgiven. So if a person meets these 3 criteria, you are a Muslim, you've reached puberty, and you are sane, you must fast. It is compulsory. Now, after having these conditions, if due to some reason you're unable to fast, it may be forgiven, but you're going to have to give a substitute or fast later on because you meet the criteria. So that's what these 3 conditions are going to be. Conditions for a person to be able to observe the fast. If you meet these, you have to fast. If you don't meet these, then you're going to have to make it up or give a substitute. What are they? The person is healthy, they're a resident, and if it's a woman, then she is free from menstruation or postnatal bleeding. So number 1, if a person is very sick, they don't have to fast in that day of Ramadan. What they'll do is not fast that day, they'll eat and drink. After the month of Ramadan, they have to make it up. If a person is a resident, they must fast. What's a resident? A person is living in their locality. If a person is a traveler, then they don't have to fast as long as they're a traveler. What is the maximum duration of traveling? It's 15 days. And the distance has to be about 88 kilometers, which is like 49 miles. So let's just say 50 miles distance. And the maximum duration is 15 days. Now, when a person is intending travel, they must be in the state of traveling before Fajr sets in. So let's say Zayd wants to travel to the UK. So Zayd is from America. If he starts his journey of traveling after Fajr, he has to fast that day. If he starts his journey of travel before Fajr, like he left his home before Fajr for the travel, then he may choose not to fast. He can still fast if he wants, but he has the option of not fasting if it's difficult for him. He has to make it up after Ramadan. And number 3, a woman who is in her hayd, her menstruation, or nifas, postnatal bleeding, it's haram for her to fast. She cannot fast. She will have to make those days up after the blessed month of Ramadan. What do you need to do in order to fulfill the fast? What must be done for a fast to be complete? Now we're talking about only from the fiqh perspective. There is a spiritual perspective of fasting, which I will cover inshallah in another video. What you need to do is have an intention. If an intention is not there, if a person just abstains from food, water, and intercourse throughout the day, but they just were sleeping the whole day, they had no intention to fast, then they don't get a reward of fasting. It doesn't count as fasting. It must be coupled with an intention. So you have to make the intention. The intention is with the heart. Many people think that you must verbalize and say the intention, that it has to be in words, audible. No, there's no words for an intention. Intention is your realization, your understanding, your will, your want to do this act. So if you know it's Ramadan and you want to fast and you're saying, I'm gonna fast in your mind and in your heart without words, that is an intention. For the Ḥanafīs, for Ramadan, Nafal, and specified oath fasts. What's a specified oath fast? That is, for instance, Zayd says, Wallahi, for the sake of Allah, by Allah, I will fast next Friday. He's specified a day and he's made an oath. So for these 3 categories, you have Ramadan, you have Nafal, any optional, or a specified oath fast. Then you can make an intention. You have the option to extend the time of the intention. You can make the intention from the Maghrib of the night before all the way up to the Fajr time, and even until midday of the day itself, as long as you haven't eaten or drank anything in that day. If you've already done something that nullifies the fast, then it doesn't matter if you make the intention or not. If you didn't do anything like that, you can still make the intention. So example, Zayd, he didn't make an intention for fasting. It's a Ramadan. He wakes up at 9 a.m. The sun's up. So he's like, I didn't make the intention. He still has the opportunity to make the intention as long as he didn't do anything to nullify the fast. This lasts until midday. Now, there are other kinds of fasts, and we're going to talk about 2 of them, Qada and Kaffarah. Qada is a makeup, Kaffarah is a penalty fast. And an unspecified oath fast. Example of that, Zayd says, Wallahi, I'll fast 3 days. Which 3 days? It's unspecified, and it's an oath. So for these, one must make the intention from the night before. Anytime from the Maghrib of the night before all the way up till before Fajr, the intention must be made. So if someone is doing a makeup fast or a penalty fast or an unspecified oath fast, they have to make the intention before Fajr. If it's after Fajr and they decide to do it, it's not going to count. Now what's midday? Like we said in the point before last. In Ramadan, you have the option to make the niyyah up until midday. When is midday? Midday is take zawal. Zawal is when the sun is at its height. And take the entire time of Fajr and subtract it from that. That is midday. What is the entire time of Fajr? Let's say the time of Fajr sets in at 5 a.m. and it finishes at 6 a.m. It's 1 hour. And when the sun is at its zenith, it's at its height, it's 12 p.m. So midday is going to be 11 a.m. So you have the option, if you woke up late, you can make the intention all the way up till 11 a.m. The second thing for the fast to be correct is that a woman cannot be in her menstruation or her nifas. She cannot be in hayd or nifas. If she is, then that fast will not count. It's actually impermissible to fast. And number 3, you cannot do anything that contradicts or nullifies the fast. You cannot nullify the fast. And we're going to talk about the nullifiers of the fast. Before that, what are the sunnahs of fasting? There is 2 sunnahs, one of the suhoor, one of the iftar. When it comes to suhoor, meaning the pre-dawn meal, you wake up before Fajr and you have a meal preparing yourself for the fast of Ramadan. It is sunnah to delay that. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Tasahharu fa inna fi suhuri baraka." Have suhoor, the pre-dawn meal. There's barakah in it. So you should delay it as much as possible. If you know that Fajr time sets in at 5 a.m., finish your meal at 4:55. Delay it. You don't want to get all the way up till 5 a.m., just a little bit before it. And regarding the iftar, don't delay the iftar. When it's time for iftar, have the iftar. Even, before Salatul Maghrib. So there's a difference between iftar and a dinner. Okay, iftar is light. You have some water, you have some dates, some fruit, something to open your fast with. Have that, make your du'as, have the iftar, go perform Salatul Maghrib, come back for a hearty dinner. That way you can pray Maghrib on time and you can get the barakah of the iftar. Now, what is the reasoning for this? When you think mentally, a person might think this way, that if I elongate my fast, I start 1 hour early, I finish 1 hour later, I'm staying hungry without food, drink, and relations for 2 hours extra. I should get more reward. But it doesn't work like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stipulated Fajr and Maghrib. And we are slaves of Allah and we do exactly as He says. And we don't enter our own form of ibadah and our own bid'ahs in this equation. And we say, Allah, you want this from me? I will do it as you say. Exactly as you say. And this is true slavery, ubudiyah. There's a hadith, Sahal bin Sa'ad radiallahu anhu narrated, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, people will continuously be with goodness as long as they open their fast swiftly. So you should be swift in it. Don't delay the iftar. Now, we're going to be talking about nullifiers of the fast. We need to talk about 3 different terms. Number 1, qada. Qada means you make up the fast. For every fast that is broken, 1 makeup is necessary after the month of Ramadan. And it can be at any time. Number 2, the kaffarah is a penalty. If someone purposefully broke their fast in Ramadan, the punishment is that they have to fast outside of the month of Ramadan, wherein there is no Eid or Ayyam al-Tashriq, the days of Eid al-Adha. They have to fast for a consecutive 2 months straight. And number 3, the Fidyah is for a person who's terminally ill or extremely old. They cannot fast. They cannot fast in Ramadan or outside of Ramadan. There's a substitute that they have to give. So these are terms that we need to know. Inshallah, we're going to get into what are the nullifiers of the fast. So the following are some rulings about qada. What is qada? It's done by observing one fast in place of a missed fast. So if someone missed a fast in the month of Ramadan, outside of Ramadan, on any day except for an Eid and except for the days of Tashriq, which is Eid al-Adha, those days around it, the person just has to fast 1 day, any day they want, for the missed fast in Ramadan. Number 2, for the intention of a qada, you do not have the option of delaying that intention before Fajr. You can't wake up late one day and say, okay, I'll do a qada today. It has to be an intention from the night before. Number 3, a person will be liable for their qada if they witness enough days to make it. Example, Zayd misses 5 days in Ramadan, but after Ramadan on Eid, Zayd passes away. Rahimahullah. Now, Zayd did not witness enough days for him to be able to make up those 5 days that he missed. So he's not going to be punished for that. However, if Zayd missed those 5 days on Ramadan and then he lived for another year and then he passed away and he didn't make up those 5 days, now he's liable to punishment, or Allah will forgive him, but he could have made those up and he didn't. So it's imperative that we make up the fasts as soon as possible. Number 4, one does not need to do qada in succession. So if a person has missed a lot and he has to make them up, he can split them up. And I suggest, in order to develop a good habit, Mondays, Thursdays, and the days in which the moon on those nights is full, the 13th, 14th, and 15th of the lunar months. And after that, you continue that and you develop a good habit with it. Number 5, if another Ramadan comes, then observe that Ramadan and then do qada for the previous missed fasts afterward. So it's ideal that you make up your qada right after Ramadan. Don't wait for the next Ramadan. Otherwise it's going to pile up. And for some sisters who have their cycles in a Ramadan, majority of women, you can miss up to 10 days of fasts in every Ramadan. Imagine if you miss 10 years, or you didn't make up 10 years of your qada for when you had your cycle. You have to make those up. That's 300 fasts that you have to do qada of. Instead, it would have been easy just in every one of those years, every Monday and Thursday, you just fast and make up that qada. So don't delay. But if you did delay, and then another Ramadan has started, now you focus on Ramadan, you cannot do qada now. After that Ramadan, you still have to do those qada. But when a Ramadan comes, you don't do that. Now we're going to get into things that break the fast, and it requires a qada, but not a penalty, not a kaffarah. What does that mean? That means for every one of these missed fasts, you have to do one fast in its place outside of the month of Ramadan. However, there's no penalty for these. You don't have to fast a consecutive 60 days. Number one, a person vomited intentionally, and it was a mouthful. There's two aspects to this. A person purposefully vomited. They did something to induce a vomit, whether that's putting the fingers in the mouth or purposefully smelling something with the intention of vomiting. And then number two, it was a mouthful. That will break the fast. You have to make it up another time. Now, all of the other variations of vomiting will not break the fast. For instance, a person did not intend on vomiting and they vomited a mouthful. That will not break the fast. A person intentionally vomited less than a mouthful will not break the fast. So it's only if it's intentional and a mouthful. Number two, the fast was broken due to legitimate reasons. They were sick, they were ill, they needed medication, it was very serious. In that situation, they will break the fast by taking the medication because it's absolutely necessary. But they will have to make that up one day after the month of Ramadan. Number three, the fast was broken by mistake. Now, what is a mistake? Here's an example. Water dripping down the throat during wudu. So you're doing wudu and you put the water in your mouth and a little bit went down. A mistake is that you are aware that you're fasting and you unintentionally cause something to go down the throat. Unintentional. Like he sees it happening, he's aware, but he doesn't want it to happen and it happens. That is a mistake. We will later talk about forgetting. Forgetting does not break the fast, but mistakes do. Number four, drops, wet cotton, wet fingers in the rear end or the female private part, or oil, water, etc., anything like that. As I mentioned before, the rear end and a woman's vagina is in the ruling of the stomach. So if anything wet goes inside them, placed inside it, not on the outside of a woman's vagina, it's the inside, and the inside the anus, something wet is placed inside. That is as if putting something wet in the stomach, and that'll break the fast. Number five, a person was forced to break the fast. So example, someone made you drink something while you were asleep. So you didn't intend it, it was forced on you. Or someone has you at gunpoint, they say eat. Or you know that the government is going to do something horrendous if you keep a fast, like some of the brothers and sisters in certain places in the world. The fast will break, but there's no penalty, you have to do a qada. Number six, fear of extreme weakness or sickness from rigorous work. If someone is a construction worker or doing some kind of work, they have to do this work, it's very serious, they still need to start the fast. During that difficulty, if they feel like they have to eat or drink because they're going to pass out or they did pass out, then they may break the fast. They're allowed to. They have to make up the fast after the month of Ramadan. Number seven, one thought there was still time for suhoor or that Maghrib began and they ate and drank. So if you had a misunderstanding of the timings, you think there's 10 more minutes of Fajr, so you're eating, 10 more minutes till Fajr and you're eating, whereas Fajr has already started, your fast is broken. you think Maghrib has already started, whereas it's going to start in 10 minutes, and you're eating because you thought it's time for iftar, that breaks the fast. You have to do a qada. Number 8, one lost consciousness for multiple days. So they were unconscious for multiple days. They have to fast because they missed these fasts. Number 9, they smoked. Someone smoking, it breaks the fast. Smoking breaks the fast. You're inhaling, ingesting these whatever materials, which is actually harmful to a person. However, there is no kaffarah for it. Number 10, nose drops, inhalers, suppositories, anything entering the brain, or oral medications. So anything entering the rear end, as I mentioned before, or anything going into the nose, reaching the brain cavity, is going to cause the fast to break. So nose drops and things like that, it will break the fast. Inhalers as well. So when you inhale, there's materials in there that you are taking into your system. Number 11, someone ate something purposefully, which is usually not eaten. So it's not considered food. So they ate a rock. They ate like a giant handful of salt. This is going to break the fast because they put something inside their body, but it is not going to cause the kaffarah to be necessary. So they just have to do 1 day qada for that broken fast. Number 2, they ate, drank, or had intercourse by mistake or unintentionally. So again, a mistake, they are aware that they're fasting, but something happened and it just occurred. They don't want it to occur, it occurred. Example, they just put a morsel in their mouth, they're gonna spit it out, and then someone tapped them on the back and they swallowed it. Intercourse by mistake, that's just purely hypothetical. How does that even work? But it's the ruling. If someone fell and intercourse took place, they knew that they're not supposed to, they didn't want to, and it occurred, then that would break the fast. They just have to do a qada. Number 13, one had an orgasm through means other than direct intercourse. This is with the exception of wet dreams, nocturnal emissions, thinking about something and then orgasming, or looking at something haram and then orgasming, or even something halal and orgasming through that. So what this means is someone had some stimulation sexually without the normal means of intercourse. So the books of fiqh talk about tafkhīth, tabtīn, meaning a man, his wife puts his organ in between some of her other body parts, and through that he has stimulation and he has an orgasm. Or a woman, various scenarios, but not through the normal sexual intercourse. So any kind of stimulation outside of normal sexual intercourse and a person having orgasm through that will break the fast. But if they're having a wet dream, that doesn't break the fast. If a person looks at something that is pleasing to them and then they don't touch, they don't stimulate themselves, and an orgasm takes place, that will not break the fast. Someone ate, drank, or had intercourse purposefully, however, after having eaten or drinking forgetfully. Okay. If you forget, what is forgetting? Because we talked about mistakes before. Forgetting is when a person doesn't even know they're fasting. Mistake is a person knows they're fasting, they just couldn't control the outcome. Forgetting is they just completely forgot. So a person may have a meal and they don't realize they're fasting. They are, and it usually happens in like the first week of Ramadan because we're not used to it. You eat because it's part of your schedule. Afterward, you realize, wow, I just ate something and I completely forgot I was fasting. So that does not break the fast. What if a person did this? They drank some water, forgetting that they were fasting, but they are fasting. The fast didn't break. But after that, they're saying, okay, my fast must be broken. Let me just go and eat now. So they go ahead and eat. That will break the fast because now they're eating on purpose, even though their fast was not breaking before. However, according to the popular view in the madhhab, will not cause kaffarah. In the popular book Nur al-Idah, it says kaffarah is compulsory. However, the Fatawa books, they say that now kaffarah is not compulsory. Qada is compulsory only on this person. They'll have to make it up on another day after Ramadan. Okay, so the following are individuals that are exempt from fasting in the month of Ramadan, but they have to do qada. It's kind of a summary of what was before. Number one, a traveler. Someone is a traveler and the duration of travel is 15 days. If they're a traveler, they don't have to fast in the month of Ramadan. They do have to make it up after. Someone fears they're going to become sick. They know through experience or through professionals. They are already sick and they're getting more sick by fasting. Or they have a health issue, or they're, some kind of, they're recovering. But if they fast, that recovery is going to be extended. In all these situations, they don't have to fast in Ramadan. They can wait till they're better. Then they have to make it up after the month of Ramadan. Number three, extreme thirst. Someone's extremely thirsty. They're going to pass out, or they already have. They may break the fast and make it up later. A woman in pregnancy. For pregnant women, they have to be in such a situation that a reliable Muslim doctor tells them. Why Muslim doctor? Because he's aware of, the rules and regulations and how strict Islam is about fasting. So he knows the ramifications. And he's an expert doctor. He tells this woman that, or she tells this woman that you are pregnant, and if you will have a special case, if you don't eat every 2 hours, something bad is going to happen to you or the baby. In that situation, they should listen to the doctor and keep those fasts after. As for the regular pregnant woman who is capable of fasting in Ramadan, she does not have this concession. Breastfeeding, same thing. If without eating in the daytime in Ramadan, there is a fear that she's going to have an issue with her body, or the child is going to not get milk, and that's going to harm the child, then a breastfeeding nursing mother or woman may break the fast and keep it after. A woman in menstruation, it's impermissible for her to fast. She will make that up after. Same thing for a woman in postnatal bleeding. The elderly, we will talk about what the elderly have to do. If they're so old and sick that they cannot keep a fast in or out of Ramadan, there's a fidyah for them. If they're really old and in the month of Ramadan it's just very difficult for whatever reason, but afterward they'll have that capability, then afterward they have to fast. If someone is forced, as we mentioned before, their fast will be broken because they were forced into eating something, but after the month of Ramadan they will have to do the qada of that. There's no kaffarah. The following here, there's only two reasons for this. A person their fast will be broken. They will have to do qada, make up that fast that was broken. And they will have to observe a penalty. I already mentioned what the penalty is, and in the next slide I'll go into detail. Number one, they ate or they drank on purpose, irrespective if that is food, medicine, or even a drop of rain. Any kind of eating or drinking on purpose, realizing that you're eating and drinking on purpose in Ramadan when you're supposed to be fasting, is a grave crime, breaking the rules of Ramadan for a Muslim. They will have to make up that day. The fast is going to be broken. And sometime during the year, they'll have to fast 60 days consecutively. Number two, a person had sexual intercourse in any of the two orifices for both individuals involved. The two orifices, for a man, to the woman's vagina or the rear end, the dubur, the anus. So having sex in any of these two organs, it will cause the fast to break. A person has to do qada and kaffarah. What is the kaffarah? It's a sequential penalty. There are three options. However, you must do option one. If you cannot, you do option two. If you cannot do option two, you get to do option three. It's not one of the three, it's sequential. So only when a person cannot do one, they may do the other. The first is to free a slave. In today's time, there are no slaves. So automatically, all of us in today's time would go to number 2 if someone had to do a kafara. Fast for 2 continuous months, so around 60 days, in which there is no Eid nor Ayyam al-Tashriq. So it cannot be Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha, or the days around Eid al-Adha. That has to be done. You have to fast for 2 consecutive months. You can't miss any days. 60 days, no missing. Now, if a person, for some reason, they can't do that. Let's say they're old, they can't even fast normally. Then they have another option. Only when they can't fast. If they can fast, they don't have this option. What is that option? Feeding 60 poor people. A miskin, a poor person. They have to feed them 1 day's food, which is 2 full satiating meals. So you have to get 60 people who are all poor. Cannot be people who have a lot of wealth. These are people who are eligible to take zakat. Feed them 2 satiating meals. Or you can give 60 miskins 1/2 of a sa' of wheat or wheat flour. Now, what is a sa'? As you can see there in the bubble, that is the equivalent in kgs. You can do the math for whatever unit of measure you're using. Either that or 1 sa' of dates or barley, or the value of these things. So you have to calculate what is the value of a sa' of date, a sa' of barley, meaning 3.53 kgs or 3.54, etc. So you find that value, you give that to them, or give them 2 satiating meals for 60 miskins. So more rules. If someone broke many fasts, then 1 kafara will cover all of them, unless they have already done a kafara and then another kafara became compulsory on them. So this is actually good news for some. Let's say a person has missed altogether, they purposefully broke 20 fasts in their lifetime. Do they have to do 20 kafaras, meaning 20 times 60 days? The answer is no. If they broke 20 total fasts on purpose in their life, they have to do 20 qadas. And a qada can be done any way a person wants, distribute it, Mondays, Thursdays, ayyamul bid. And they have to do 1 kafara. 1 kafara is 60 days consecutively. They have to do it, and that will cover all of the 20 days that they broke on purpose. However, if they did a kafara and it covered everything in the past, they covered the 20 days that they broke, after that kafara, they break another time. In the future, they broke again on purpose. Now they have to do a new kafara. So kafaras won't cover the future, they only cover the past. Now, a person who started their kafara can pause the kafara if it's a woman in hayd. In her menstruation, she cannot fast. So she's doing her kafara. When the hayd starts, she stops fasting. When the hayd is done, she starts again. She continues the kafara until the 60 are done. Same thing if she's in nifas. And so those 2 are for women. The third one is for men and women. They are sick, so sick that they can't fast. So they'll be able to eat and drink on that day that they're sick. Right after they're cured from the sickness, they have to continue where they left off in that kafara. And a person cannot pause the kafara if they want to travel. So traveling is not a valid excuse to pause the kafara. Now, fidyah. Fidyah is the expiation. Someone can't fast. They are incapable of fasting. They meet the requirements of fasting. They're Muslim, they're sane, they're reached puberty, but they're really unhealthy or they're terminally ill. So you have the elderly who are weak. They have to be so weak that they cannot fast in Ramadan nor outside of Ramadan. Then that is the category who may give fidyah. Terminally ill. The doctors say this person is not old, but they will never be able to fast. They're just so weak and maybe they're going to pass away soon. So they can't fast in or out of Ramadan. Such people, because there's no hope in them fasting, there is a substitution which is called a fidyah. So what is a fidyah? For each day of Ramadan, they have to give half of a sa' of wheat, or its value. Half sa' of wheat is 1.79 kg. We could just say 1.8 kgs of wheat. What is the value of that? They would have to give that value. Now, easy way to understand this is the zakatul fitr. The fitrah on Eid al-Fitr, there's a zakatul fitr. It ranges from $7 to $15. So this much for every day of fasting. So if a person needs to give fidyah, then let's say $10, about $300 to the poor. That will cover their Ramadan. And another point is no one can fast for you. You cannot hire a person to fast on your behalf. That's not going to count. You have to give fidyah if you cannot fast. If someone must give fidyah but doesn't have money, then fidyah is forgiven. So this poor person himself is poor. They take zakat. Then they don't have to give anything. They just don't fast. The following are people who are not, they are required to fast. They are eligible to fast, but due to some reason, they're not fasting. And if they're not fasting, they have to imitate the fast. What does this mean? It's not recorded that they're a fasting person, but they have to act like they're fasting, meaning no eating, drinking, or relations until iftar time. Who are these people? A person who broke their fast. So a person drank or ate or had sexual intercourse or any other of the things that we mentioned without, that doesn't necessitate kaffarah, but qada. They broke their fast. Now for the rest of the day, that doesn't mean that they can just eat whatever they want. They should imitate the fasting, which is called imsak. Number 2, a woman whose menstruation or nifas finished after sunrise. Now a woman in menstruation or nifas does not have to imitate the fasting. She can eat. But if her menstruation or nifas finished after fajr, that means she can't fast because fasting starts before fajr. Now she'll just imitate the fasting people. A child who reached puberty after sunrise. Remember, one of the conditions to fast is you have to be of age, meaning it's compulsory on people who reached puberty. Kids who are before the age of puberty, it's recommended that they fast. So a child who reached puberty after sunrise has to pretend that they're fasting for the rest of the day. And number 4, a person who accepted Islam after sunrise. So he accepted Islam at Dhuhr time. Now for the rest of the day, you have to pretend that you're fasting. From tomorrow, you start the actual fast. The following are disliked actions while fasting. Number 1, tasting food. That's unnecessary. The whole thing is that you're supposed to be in the mindset of being hungry. Number 2, chewing things unnecessarily. It's not going to break the fast. You're not eating it. Kissing or cuddling. It is makruh for young couples and those who cannot control themselves. Why? Because this may lead to sexual intercourse, thus causing kaffarah to become compulsory. Rasulullah ﷺ used to kiss his wives, but he had control over himself. So it's not makruh if you have control over yourself. Complaining about the fast. This will reduce the rewards because fasting is an act of patience. Gargling in wudu and ghusl. So in wudu, gargling is not necessary. You can do wudu without gargling. It's sunnah. So you should do it. But in Ramadan, you can avoid it. You have to avoid it in Ramadan. But even putting water in the mouth, you can avoid that if you need. For ghusl, you need to put water in the mouth. You don't have to gargle for ghusl. The water has to reach the entire mouth, that's all. Outside of Ramadan, it's recommended to gargle. But in Ramadan, you should avoid gargling. Your ghusl will still be done if the water reaches the mouth without gargling. Number 6, fighting people for no reason. Or for a reason. You have to abstain from argumentation. Number 7, foul language and backbiting. These are haram. Foul language and backbiting ghiba is haram. However, it affects the fast. It is disliked in the fast and reduces the reward of the fast. It being haram is a separate thing. Yes, it is haram. But the fast is going to be also affected by doing that. So it's double harmful. Storing saliva to drink. When you're fasting, you should behave as a pious, normal Muslim would do and not try to make hacks how to, get a drink. Doing strenuous activities that may weaken a person. Now, if a person has to, it's their job, that's understandable. They're going to get fired, they're going to be in a difficult situation. For no reason, going and doing extra work and weakening the body and making the fast hard, that is makruh. Such as hijama. Hijama is cupping, extracting stagnant blood from the body. That is going to cause weakness. Unnecessarily donating blood, that's going to cause weakness, so that is makruh. If a person has to do it, then that is excused. Brushing with toothpaste. The toothpaste may leave a taste in the mouth. There is a fear that you may even swallow it, so it's makruh to do so. It is not makruh to use the miswak, however. So you may use toothpaste before Fajr sets in. After iftar time, you can use it. But during the day, you can use a miswak. And it's sunnah. The following are things that do not break the fast: eating, drinking, or even intercourse while forgetting one is fasting. So here I want to talk to you about forgetting again. Forgetting is that you are unaware that you're fasting. Someone has intercourse, he thinks he's not fasting. Afterward, he realizes he's fasting. So it's not going to break the fast. A mistake, however, is one is aware they're fasting, but their fast breaks out of their control. So someone knows they're fasting, they put water in their mouth to do wudu, and then someone taps them on the back and then it goes down their throat. That will break the fast. But that's a mistake. So only qada, no kaffarah. And there's a third category here that is not written, and that is doing something on purpose. You are aware that you're fasting and break your fast on purpose, and that's when you have kaffarah. So here are some categories of things that do not break the fast when it comes to bodily functions. Vomiting. So there are various scenarios here. I'll quickly go through them. If vomit came by itself, it just came out, and a person swallowed it by mistake, they didn't intend it, then it's not going to break the fast, even if that was a mouthful of vomit. So vomit came out by mistake, he swallowed it or she swallowed it, not going to break the fast. If a person purposefully vomits less than a mouthful and purposefully swallows it, it won't break the fast. So they cause themselves to vomit, but it's less than a mouthful, and then they decide to swallow it, will not break the fast. Third scenario, if a person purposefully or even unintentionally vomits a mouthful, but then purposefully swallows it knowing they're fasting, it's going to break the fast. So if you purposefully swallow a mouthful, that will break the fast. Then the last scenario, if a person purposefully vomits a mouthful or more without even swallowing, it's going to break the fast. As we mentioned before, purposefully vomiting a mouthful, has to be a mouthful, it'll break the fast. Number 2, swallowing one's own saliva does not break the fast. If you swallow someone else's saliva, it's going to break the fast. Number 3, mucus, swallowing mucus. In the Ḥanafī madhhab, it will not break your own fast. In the Shafi'i madhhab, it will. That is why even for Hanafis, it's recommended to spit out the mucus that comes in the mouth. Number 4, nocturnal emissions, wet dreams, does not break the fast. Number 5, impurity, janaba of the night lasting after Fajr time. So if someone had a wet dream or sexual intercourse before Fajr, and after Fajr time sets in, they're still in janaba, they need to take a ghusl, they're in the state of impurity, that doesn't break the fast, they just have to do the ghusl. Number 6, eating that which is stuck in between the teeth if it is less than a chickpea. So if you have food inside your mouth in between your teeth and you're fasting, and then ideally you take it out, but if it goes down the throat, then if it was less than a chickpea, that is forgiven. If it's the same size or more, it will break the fast. Spiritual things that do not break the fast, but these will decrease a person's reward of the fast. Backbiting. It's haram in itself, it will not break the fast, and it decreases the reward of the fast. Number 2, intending to eat but hasn't eaten yet. So if he's just about to eat, it only breaks the fast when he actually eats. Looking at haram things, this is haram, and it decreases the reward of the fast, but the fast is intact. Accidental things, number 1, dust and smoke. So a person walks through an area of it's dusty or there is smoke in the area and they inhale it by mistake. or they're not even thinking about it, it won't break the fast. If they purposefully seek out areas of, people smoking cigarettes and blowing it out, and they purposefully go in there and inhale it, it will break their fast. Accidentally ingesting bugs will not break the fast. Application wise, oil, lotion, lip balm, eyeliner, none of these things break the fast. Even they say sometimes eyeliner, when it's put on, the kuhul, you may get a little bit of taste of it because the eye cavity is connected to the throat. That still will not break the fast. Fragrances do not break the fast. Now, if someone sprays the fragrance in the air and purposefully like ingests the mist, that's a different story. But in general, fragrance will not break the fast. Hygiene related, showering does not break the fast. Now, putting a wet finger in the anus or inside the inner vagina will break the fast, but general showers don't break the fast. Now, another thing, some people get OCD of wet fingers in the anus. That is only if you are attempting to do so. If a person does istinja, they wash their rear end with water, it won't go in the anus unless you actually put it inside. Miswak does not break the fast, it's recommended. Medicinal injections and IV, they do not break the fast. As long as it doesn't go to the stomach or the brain, if it goes to a vein, it's not going to break the fast. So anything you enter via your veins will not break the fast. Cupping, extracting blood doesn't break the fast. So if someone needs to take out their blood to do blood testing for diabetes or something, that doesn't break the fast. Eardrops. Now, early scholars said that eardrops would break the fast because they were of the impression that it reaches the brain. But nowadays we know that it doesn't, so it won't break the fast. Eye drops. It doesn't reach the brain cavity. Now, nose drops will break the fast. Insulin. So shots, insulin shots, etc., that will not break the fast. Only if it goes into the stomach cavity or the brain area, it will. Feeling the taste of medicine, if you didn't ingest it, maybe there was some kind of eardrops and you get the taste of it, it's not going to break the fast. So this is the completion of the general fiqh of fasting. I hope it was beneficial. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in a hadith, "Man sama Ramaḍān imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." Those who fast in Ramadan with faith and expect reward, their previous sins will be forgiven. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq to witness this blessed month of Ramadan that is coming. We ask Him to allow us to understand the rules and regulations of the fast and allow us to observe it properly in a way that He is pleased with us. Allow us to reach the night of Laylatul Qadr and fully benefit from this glorious month. Jazakallahu khairan. وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.